Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Big Chill podcast. This is our final group preview for the Euro 2020. This is Group F, the proclaimed group of death. You are at the final letter of the alphabet for our selections. So please, if you haven't, if
I
you
thought
started
Z
at
was
F,
the final letter of the alphabet.
of the Euros alphabet. Wow, you don't give me
Sam,
anything for my introductions.
But Sam, you're making it sound like we attributed the letters to them.
Yeah, this
they
is
count. They were like,
RF.
"Hey, Big Chill Podcast, how should we name these groups?" And we're like, "Let's go alphabetical up to F."
Group F, group of death. We needed the rhyme. We got the rhyme, so it kind of worked really well for us. But if you've landed on F first, please go back and listen to all the other groups as well. And with that in mind, let's go over to Eddie and Group F.
Yeah, I mean, it is the standout group from the tournament, right? You've got the reigning World Cup champions playing probably Europe's most successful team in Germany in the opening match. You've got Portugal with maybe Cristiano Ronaldo having his last hurrah in international football. And then you've got Hungary kind of just there for fun, I guess. Very, very interesting. To me, it's a storyline, I think. France, I don't know whether they're being underestimated or overestimated. They've been a bit unconvincing over the last couple of years, but the fact that they were so good in the World Cup and have such a they have the deepest squad out of any team in this tournament, that's for sure. I just don't know whether or not they have the best team. Now, an interesting fact from France is that Paul Pogba and Kante have played together for France 27 times, and they have never lost. So if both of those players are making appearances for France in this tournament, then history would tell you they are going to win the Euros. But also interesting, Didier Deschamps is trying to win this tournament as a manager, having won it as a player in 2000. Also, I think his team, the way it's now set up, is so similar to the way that they played in the 1998 World Cup. It's actually very interesting. He's almost taken some of the flair out of the side, which is odd because you kind of think of this current French team and you think of Mbappe, maybe Griezmann. But with that holding defensive midfielder role that he has Kante playing, he's then using players you would expect to be central midfielders in wider roles. It is actually quite a structured defensive team that might then rely on that pace and explosiveness of Mbappe up front to sort of pick teams apart. I'm not loving France coming into this, I have to admit, but I think I've got to pick them as the winners of the group just because Germany have been so inconsistent and unconvincing over the past few months. We spoke when we were speaking about Spain's group about how Spain just completely dismantled them not too long ago. It's difficult to think of a team being thrashed by a decent European side and now suddenly pulling everything together in the Euros. They look likely to play with three at the back. There's been a bit of debate, a little bit like England, debate coming into this, whether or not they play four at the back or three at the back. They've played their final warm-up fixture for the tournament with three at the back. So you'd have to assume that that's how they're going to play going forward, which defensively, I think, is where they have their concerns. When you look at the players that they've got in midfield and up front, particularly with Havertz having ended the season in such fine form, in a way, Germany have been really bolstered by the fact that some of their players refound form in the last month or two of the season. If this tournament had taken place 6 months ago, this German side would have probably looked a little bit different. It's obviously Joachim Löw's last few matches as German manager, so we'll get the end of the ball sniffer, which might be a shame for us, for YouTube clips out there. He will be missed. He'll have to go and sniff his balls off camera. But it's a very, very interesting group. I think, the storylines will all be about France and Germany fundamentally, and then Ronaldo, I think. And that's kind of doing a disservice to this Portuguese team that does have a number of very talented players like João Felix, like Bernardo Silva. There are good players throughout this team.
Who are defending champs, right?
Yes, which is also weird to think about because it doesn't feel like this is a group that has defending World Cup champions and defending European champions.
And
you know what I mean?
Neither of those are Germany. right?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Also very strange.
I think the thing with Portugal here, though, is that they didn't top their qualifying, right? They've always been an inconsistent qualifying team. Like Ukraine topped their qualifying group. And Portugal have always had that habit of kind of underperforming in the qualifiers, just getting there and then going on and winning it or doing really well or something like that. But there's always that reservation with Portugal about, if it's not Ronaldo, then who? And...
Well, I actually think that can also be part of their undoing, because it looks likely that they might even play a formation that has Ronaldo up front on his own, and obviously that talent they have in attacking midfielders in behind him. There can sometimes, I think, be a slight over-reliance on Ronaldo, and the fact that he is not at the peak of his powers anymore. And as good as he still is, as Juventus saw this season, he is not a player now who can just carry you to victories every time, as he might have done in the past. You know, we had years where you just, like even in the 2018 World Cup against Spain, when he produced that wonderful free kick to get them the 3-3 draw. But, you know, just he had that knack of always getting goals, either when his club side needed them or when Portugal needed them. I guess the ironic thing is obviously he was injured in the final of the 2016 Euros, and then was limited to just a role as a very enthusiastic cheerleader on the sidelines. But I think part of if Portugal are going to make it through this group and to have a successful tournament, they're actually going to have to lean less on Ronaldo and allow some of those other players to really step into the spotlight.
So let me bounce a question off you from that then. Who is the best player in this group?
Tough one, actually. I mean, I think it's Mbappe, but Mbappe sometimes feels like a little bit of a flat track bully to me. It does seem that when he burns hot, it's very, very hot, but he sometimes goes missing in games, and he has a tendency at times to get a little bit frustrated and just to throw in another little analogy, sort of saying an analogy in here, throw his toys out of the pram when things aren't going well. So I think it's Mbappe.
Kante?
I think possibly Kante. We discussed post Champions League final that Kante, I think, is the best player in the world at doing what he does. He is better at his role than any other player is at their respective roles. So, I mean, that's why I think France will qualify. They just have talent throughout, and they have such a deep squad that even if there are injuries, I mean, you've got the injury to Benzema, right, which is a blow to them. Fortunately, they have Olivier Giroud to step in, who, interesting fact, became the oldest French player ever to score 2 goals in a match for France at the age of, I think, 34 and 8 months. Which kind of surprising, just because France over the years have had a number of older players hang around for quite a while. So it's a little bit of a surprising one. But yeah, I think France will qualify. I think Germany will be good enough to get second, although I think they are sort of, part of me feels like because they disappointed at the 2018 World Cup and didn't make it out of the group stages, that I can't see them not making it out of the groups 2 major tournaments in a row. It would be so un-German. And that I do expect this kind of machinery of German football to reappear, where they are just lethal at tournaments. Don't react like that.
It's amazing how many people use terms that just stereotype Germany to describe Germany, like industrious, workmanlike.
But they are. It's like Gary Lineker.
It's that classic German efficiency.
It's the Gary Lineker expression, right? Right? Gary Lineker has what I think it was his, where he says, football is a game where everyone runs around for 90 minutes and then Germany win on penalties. I think
it's good.
And it just wouldn't stun me to have Germany kind of get back in a team that isn't star-studded, but still is filled with very talented players playing at very big clubs who have won a lot and achieved a lot. It wouldn't stun me to suddenly have. They also have that benefit that so many of their players play at Bayern Munich. They're one of those teams who can carry forward club form into international form, kind of unlike no other. That they do have these key components playing in different positions who will just be so familiar with each other. So I think France will win the group. Germany will come second. I think Portugal will be good, but will finish third. And Hungary will round things off. I mean, the only talking point from Hungary is, right, they have one of the brightest players in European football in Szoboszlai. I've probably just butchered his name, but, he is one of the kind of future stars to watch in this tournament. So it will be interesting to see him play in such a tough group, because he could make a name for himself if he puts in 2 or 3 very good performances against teams you would expect to sweep aside Hungary. But with maybe the exception of France, Germany and Portugal, as you touched on, Sam, they both have bad games in them. You know, Germany have lost to North Macedonia, right? Portugal have struggled in qualifying and at different stages. So, you know, a surprise could happen in the group of death, but I do think it will be France and then
There's
Germany.
one of those weird realities as well that naturally we look at best third place finishes for some of these going through. Like, there's a real chance that, you know, France go through with 9, they win 3 games. Germany may say win 2, Portugal just beat Hungary, and 3 may not be enough. Like, there's this kind of possibility that Portugal on 3 points, it might be a little tough one to see, because there might be other clubs in third place on 4 points, etc. So Portugal have got a real awkward one to tread here. I mean, don't get me wrong, they might finish second, Germany might finish third, and this might be the exact same point for the Germans. But I agree with you. I think the French could have picked 2 squads, and they could have had some really quality players, such as like their strength and depth and things like that. So I do see the French going through. And like all of these groups, we've all picked like a standout team that's probably going to win. But the real tussle is that second and third with a lot of these.
Maybe, and you have to say though, we've discussed previously, you know, is the difficulty of your first match, how much does that influence what your prospects look like? And maybe Portugal are lucky here that they could get off to winning ways against Hungary. Potentially there is a draw in the Germany-France match, or even one of them wins. Suddenly you have that 3-point advantage over another team, and you have that ability now to potentially play tactically and start to think, if we do win one of the remaining 2 matches, we're probably going through. If we could get 2 draws, then we're in a really strong position to go through as well. And you can then just hope that Hungary spring a surprise in one of those other 2 matches. So maybe this is, again, it's one of those things, you're going to reverse engineer it depending on what the outcome of this group is. But I think Portugal, it's helpful that they get to start against Hungary.
How many points will it take for a third place team to get out? 4?
To be one of the strongest teams? I would say 5 to be confident.
Yeah, it's kind of like a 3 definitely doesn't do it. A 5 probably definitely does.
A 4 might.
4 might be goal difference, or I don't know how it actually works like that. I guess it's got to be goal difference, right? But
yeah, no, it's a tough one, and that's going to be an interesting thing, right? Late in the group stages, when teams are around the 3rd or 2nd, and do they start playing for a win? Do they hold on to a draw? You know, normally you know exactly what the math is as to how you get out of your group. This throws this variable in where suddenly you think to yourselves, okay, we're going to be stuck on 4 points right now. Do we want to not concede a goal because maybe our goal difference is pretty good for a 4th place team? So are we better shutting up shop right now and losing 1-0? Or is this a situation where we do need to push and try and get that draw that pushes us to 5 points? It's going to be kind of interesting to follow as the group stages start to reach their conclusion.
Yeah, and luckily all the final games go off at the same time. So I remember you used to have that problem where you'd have a complete dead rubber game because it didn't matter or something like that. So at least they go off at the same time, and you've got the permutations kind of moving as the match goes on.
Yeah, we get the thrill of players trying to relay live scores from. That's always wonderful when the cameras try to cut to players on the bench trying to like, oh, 1-1 now. But you know what? If you're interested in what you think the various permutations are for these group stages and the knockout stages going forward, then now is a great time for us to wrap up this group preview. And there is another video where we will predict the actual outcome of the tournament, so you can go there and see who we think will be making it through the groups and winning the tournament overall.
Yeah, and hopefully you're not that psycho who started with that video and now is backtracking through all the groups. Don't be that person.
Or you're watching this in like August 2021 after we've just nailed the Euros predictions, and you're going back to see exactly how accurate we were with our group stage predictions. In which case, well done you.